Brilliant. Well, welcome everybody who has joined, all the early birds arriving in advance. We do have some videos for you to watch which recap ACTAsia's previous events in 2020 and 2019. And we also have a short video clip, which is an endorsement from Stella McCartney. Finally, we have a video from End Pandemics, which is an alliance that ACTAsia is proud to be part of. We will put the agenda for today's lineup of speakers and topics into the chat box so that you can have a look at that and see what's coming up today. So we have just about 9 or 10 minutes before we actually get started.
We knew it was coming. The signs were all there. We knew we had to change, but we didn't. Destroying wild habitats, exploiting wildlife, turning a blind eye. Maybe it would go away. It didn't. It began to bite back. Primates had HIV, civets had SARS, bats and Ebola. COVID-19 is not the first pandemic, and it won't be the last. Unless we deal with the root causes. It's time to stop the wildlife trade and to support compassionate, sustainable farming to protect our planet. Let's change our relationship with nature forever. For all life on Earth.
That's great. And we are about 1 minute from starting our meeting today. And I'll just like to welcome Pei Su, because it's really nice to look back at our memories and previous events, which has led us to this one. And Pei Su is the founder and CEO of ACTAsia. And I just thought it would be nice to welcome her to talk about today's event and the reason that we've partnered with CBCGDF's RCEP 4C, and wondered if, Pei, you could just tell us in maybe just 1 minute about the event and what is the RCEP 4C?
RCEP 4C is, RCEP itself is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So it's a free trade, another new free trade agreements is particularly important for China, and Premier Xi is taking very seriously about these partnerships. And the 4C is initiated by CBCGDF, that's China Green Development and the Biodiversity Protection Foundations, and 4C main civil society, culture, communication, and cooperation. Is hoping through the 4C to promote the cross, sectors collaboration under the concept of a free trade agreements.
That's great. It seems to fit perfectly with the event today. So I think we have ticked over to 2 p.m, which is the start of our agenda today. And if you have a look in the chat box, we should have the link if anyone's interested in finding out the running order and topics. My name is Dawn Peacock, Director of Programmes at ACTAsia, and I'm delighted to be your host for this event. The title of today's event is CBCGDF's RCEP 4C's 5th meeting and the start of ACTAsia's 7th annual International Fur-Free Festival. This forum is focused on industry and is titled The Fashion Industry's Future is Fur-Free. Some notes for the meeting. Please use the interpretation function, which you'll find on the toolbar. It looks a little bit like a globe, and choose whether you'd like to listen along in Chinese or English today. If you're an attendee, please close your video and mute. And as we go through the presentations today, please submit your questions to the chat box, and we'll try to collate those and ask as many as we can, and put as many as we can of those questions to the speakers in the Q&A section. We are live streaming in Chinese, so if audiences want to listen in English, please join the meeting room. We will make sure the link is available in the chat, and the QR code is on our social media posts. We have a talented, knowledgeable and experienced lineup of speakers joining us today to inspire, share solutions and offer a moment to pause and consider how we can plan for our brands to become fur-free and more sustainable. The format of today's forum will be short presentations followed by a Q&A section. Today's event is a partnership between two important events, the RCEP 4C and ACTAsia's Compassion in Fashion Forum. For the first time, we've doubled the number of forums that we've held in 1 year. And this one, it'll be focused for industry and brands. And the September forum will focus on the consumers and their thoughts. So I've welcomed Pei Su. She is the founder and CEO for ACTAsia. Pei has been active in humane education, animal welfare and non-profit organisations for over 25 years, spearheading campaigns in Asia on a number of wildlife issues, which has led to ACTAsia's consumer education campaign on fur farming. I'll hand over to you, Pei.
Hi. 大家中午好。首先呢，
Hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to say it's my great pleasure to gather together with all of you today here for the RCEP 4C 5th meeting. And it's also the 7th ACTAsia's annual International Fur-Free Festival, the first forum of the 2 within this year. Today, our focus will be the fashion industry's future is fur-free. First of all, I would like to thank the CBCGDF and their support for our event today. Today, after this event, we have lots of people working to support it. And later, we're going to hear from Linda Wong, the Deputy Secretary General of the CBCGDF soon. The pandemic is still going on, and last year in several countries, including Greece, Spain, Italy, United States, France, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, etc., people have found COVID-19 infecting those minks animals. And in Denmark, they also discovered some cases and found that it was infected from human beings and then even backwards infecting people. And China is a big country in cultivating and farming the fur of minks. So how do we further protect COVID-19 despite we have done it very well among human beings here in China? But when it's involving with animals, it still requires all of our attention, and we should not put down our guards, because even though it is well maintained and controlled here in China, but it's still going on in a lot of other countries across the world. And not only minks, but there could be other species being infected or facing such dangers. Since 2021, lots of European countries have forbidden or prohibited the farming of minks. And in the United States, they have even banned the sales, the production of many fur products. And today, our event is co-organized by CBCGDF and ACTAsia. And today, apart from speaking upon fashion with fur-free industry, our focus is also to support the development of the 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 12th, 5th, 17th, and 18th goals of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, especially focusing on the goal of responsible consumption. That's why we start with B2B today. Talk about in the realm of within those industries, including raw materials, sourcing, production, manufacturing, and the sales. Among our discussion, we want to convey the idea that we are all the future makers within this industry. We can make those changes.
We are getting together today. Today is RCEP's 4C meeting. As I explained earlier, 4C is a civil society, culture, and cooperation to get under the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership as a new trade agreement. It's really, really important, under this bigger framework and concept. And we are talking, the industry which are related to our daily life, and particularly under the COVID pandemic issues. So we need to taking these fur issue and farming industry linking with sustainability seriously. Particularly what we're doing today is related to the United Nations SDG goals, particularly under the goal 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 15, and 17. We really hope, through today, from business to business to dialogue, we are stimulate and thinking more about our future, and we can combat climate change, combat these pandemics together.
Thank you, Pei. That's a really insightful start for us. And now I'd like to welcome CBCGDF's Linda Wong, Deputy Secretary. CBCGDF is one of the most active and influential foundations in China, and Linda will give us a note on sustainability under the RCEP 4C meetings. Okay, let me stop sharing, and then you can.
是这样子，点这个 OK， 好，把它打成大家好，我来自中国生物多样性保护与绿色发
I
展
come
基金
from
会
China Biodiversity
非常
Reserve
感谢
and
定会行动
Green
亚洲基金
Development
呢
Foundation,
为本次会议做出大
CBCGDF.
量
I'd
努
like
力，
to
我也
thank
非常荣
ACTAsia
幸的能够今
for
天
their great
和
effort
大家
for
一起
today's
来
event. And also, it's
来
my
分
great
享来
honor
学
to be
习
invited
在
as
这
a
场终
guest
止人
here today
我呢想谈一谈关于终止
for
人
me
畜
to
共患
learn.
流行病
Today, I
和
would
生态
like to
中
talk
和
about
这样的一
end
个背景。
zoonosis and achieve
首先呢
carbon
感谢
neutrality.
刚才主持人刚才提到的
First
这
of all,
个
I'd like
问
to
题，就是什
thank
么是 RCEP 4C。
for the
我
explanation
们知道
given
去年
by
在
Ms.
11月份
Supaifen.
11月
What
15
is
日，由
RCEP and
15
what
个成
is
员国经贸部
4C?
长呢正
Last
式签署
November,
了区域全面经济
15
伙伴
countries
关系协
there,
定，也就是
Minister of
RCEP。
Economic and
由此
Trade
呢诞
have
生了全球
together
最大的
signed
自
the
由贸易机
RCEP,
制。
which
随
is
着
one
区域
of the
经济的一体
largest
化取得这一重
regional
大的进展
trade
呢，
partnership
在
mechanism.
RCEP 区域内
And
如何
with
推动
global
各国之
economy
间
being
这个
developed, how do
生
we
态环境
work
保护
under
和
this
可持续
framework
发展
and
的这个
push
民间合
forward the
作，成
development
了
of
一个备受关
sustainable
注的一个
development
问
and
题。 这
environmental
也是我们的
protection,
这个
especially
研究的
within the
一个
private
重点
sectors
和
or civil
关注
sectors.
的
It's also a
非常重要的
focus
方
that
面。
we all
那么
want
在
to
这
focus
个
on.
协议这个签署1周之后呢，
And
我
1
们
week
牵头
after
成立了
the
RCEP 工
RCEP
作
was
组，并且
signed,
联
we
合
have
多个国
established
家
the
的民间
RCEP
机构
working
呢，
committee, and
召开了
together
首
with
次的
many
工作会
countries,
议，就
regional
加
and
强
private
RCEP 区域间
organizations
的
to
民间组织的
strengthen
环境交
our
流、合作和共治，
environmental
推动可持续
communication,
发展，进
cooperation,
行这个讨
and
论和构
joint
建这个对话的
governance
平台。
to build a
在
platform
11
for
月
dialogues.
12日，这是11月20日，这是去年
On the
我们召
20th
开
of
了首次的
November
RCEP
last year, we had
4C
the
的会议。
first
那么今
RCEP
天这次呢
4C
是第5次，
meeting, and
非常
today
感
it's
谢
already
苏
the
芬老师
5th
和
meeting within
行
this
动亚洲主办
series.
协
I'd
的
like
各
to
个
thank
各位
Pei
小伙伴
Su
们，
and
使得它成为这个可
ACTAsia's
能使得它成为一
employees
个非常
again.
好的
Thank
对
you
话
so
平台。
much
那么在
for
过去4次的
enhancing
这
this
个
platform
参与
to
的
make
人
it
数呢，
become a really
已经超
useful
过了10万
and
人。
significant. In the past
在
4
过去4
meetings,
次的会议
over
呢，我们围绕着
100,000
RCEP 国家之间的
participants
民间合
were
作，以
involved
及
and
RCEP 协议
participated.
对于中国
We
的机
had
遇和
talked
挑
about
战、
the
动
private
物福利、
cooperation
青
between
年与
RCEP
生态环境
framework
保护等主题展开了
countries
精草的
and
这
the
个讨
challenges
论。
and
今
opportunities
天呢，
regarding
我
the
首先
RCEP
预祝这次
agreement,
会议取得
animal
圆满成
welfare
功。
and
第
environmental
2个方
protection
面呢， 我
among the
想谈一
youngsters,
谈这个今
etc.
天会议的主题。
And
今天会
now
议的
I
主
would
题
like
是
to
可
shift to
持
the
续
focus
发
of
展目
our
标
event
下的
today,
零皮草时尚产业的
which
生
is
态的问题。
the
这是我们
the
的
fashion
logo。
industry's future is for free. Just now
这
you
个
saw
这
the
涉及
logo
了
of
大量的人畜共患病
CBCGDF
的这个问
on the
题。
shared
就
screen.
像苏博士呢，在
As we
RCEP
know, we
4C
now
的第
have
3
a
次会
lot
上
of
曾经指
problems
出的，
with
就是从如
zoonosis,
何
like
从根源
Dr.
上
Su
终止这个
mentioned
问题
in
的
the
方法
fourth
呢，那么
meeting.
其中一条就是终止
The
工业化的养殖
only
场的
way
动
to
物的
solve the
饲养。
problem is to
在
stop
过
the
去我们看到很多
industrialized
关于新
animal
冠疫情
farming.
的这个
In the past, we saw quite a
这
lot
个
of
广告跳出来了。
problems.
这
Sorry, let
个
me
相关的
close
报
the
道，尤其
advertisement.
是在
We saw
今
quite
年
a
这
lot of
个五一
media
假，我们可能
coverage
是世界
regarding
上
the
过的这
relationship
个
between
最
COVID-19 and
最热
animals.
闹的
Well, The Labor Day holiday in China was such a situation that we can be able to freely travel among all provinces in the nation, but still we see the situation being really severe in other countries, including India. For example, one day they have over 390,000 cases newly discovered within a day. And in 2021, the UN's biodiversity meeting will be held in China in October in Kunming of Yunnan province in China. So it's going to be there really soon. The 26th UN framework on climate change will be held in the United Kingdom as well soon after that. So 2021 will be a milestone in our works. And against this backdrop, how do we shift our civilization? We need to think about the way we produce, the way we live, what changes we should make. And here, I would really like to talk about how do we protect biodiversity and face climate changes, and we all need to work together, just like Dr. Su have mentioned about the SDGs of the UN. It's a very systematic work to achieve all those SDG goals. And achieving one should not be at the compromise of others. So coordination and enhancing the efficacy of all works should be really important. How do we do it with sustainable development and consumption to achieve our goal? And how do we push forward the development of SDGs 17's goals? How do we build a better planet with our commonwealth? That is really important to be discussed among our forum and event today. We're going to hear quite a lot from the following speakers and guests through their discussions.
So let me introduce to you about our work. Actually, starting from last June, our organization started the discussion of the animal disease prevention law, and we invited the experts of the disease prevention and also the healthcare and environmental experts, and we already submitted 14 comments and 10 suggestions to the State Council. And also, April 27th was a day to remember because we coordinated with volunteers and also some organizations, and we started the lawmaking activity and got more than 1 million people's support in prevention or in protesting against animal abuse. And that means that we got a lot of voice heard. And also in last summer, we conducted the discussion on the wildlife preservation law, and also we provided the suggestion to the authorities. And also on January 8th, we organized the challenges of animal protection and welfare in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, supported by UFAW, and a lot of people participated in the activity. So all those efforts really stood out with the two targets of carbon peak and carbon neutrality target by our government. So I believe that today the guests will also talk about the carbon neutral and fur farming and also the relationship between the two. And I believe that with the climate change issue and also with the worsening situation of biodiversity, we really look forward to today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That's a great introduction. Really good to acknowledge the devastation that COVID is still causing in countries like India, and also the root causes of the pandemic. We're all working towards the SDGs, whether we're in an organization, and I know that more brands are becoming aware of it. So it's really nice to see that we're united towards working towards these goals. And I think for us as a partner of CBCGDF, the momentum that you've gathered, the public support, the proposals for new legislation, it's just a phenomenal achievement and ongoing project as well. So thank you. Thanks for that opening remarks. So I'll just share my screen again. There we go. And we're ready to move on to our first presentation today. And I'm pleased to introduce Joey Pringle, the founder of Veshin Factory, which is on a mission to build one of the greenest factories on the planet. They're on a journey towards sustainable and vegan materials. And as brands are developing values to include sustainability and become more sustainable, but how can they get there? Amid growing consciousness and a concern for the well-being of the workforce, Veshin Factory supports brands and gives them the suppliers and options to use innovative materials and open up the possibilities for the future. The presentation today will start with a short video clip of Veshin Factory, and after that, we'll hand over to Joey.
A garment factory has collapsed in Bangladesh, once again calling into question the safety standards at the factories.
The owner of the Rana Plaza factory complex in Bangladesh.
A Chinese company that has made shoes for the Ivanka Trump brand denies allegations of excessive overtime and low wages. A factory fire in India killed at least 43 people Sunday.
Look, this is going to keep happening as long as we let it. So we need to show clothing brands not just that we care, but why they should.
Whilst the fashion industry has strived to become more sustainable over the course of the last 10 years, manufacturers have struggled to keep pace with the speed of change required. Our answer to this is Veshin Factory. I'm Joe Pringle, founder of Veshin, OEM and ODM manufacturer that specialises in luxury vegan leather and premium recycled synthetics, bags and accessories. Our goal at Veshin is to become one of the greenest factories on the planet by living and breathing 5 core values. We want to reduce the quantity of global output by making high quality, innovative, long-lasting products. Our focus is on the circular economy and working with material suppliers that take these and turn them into this. Certifications and audits are a crucial part of the social compliance process, but we plan on going above and beyond by providing transparency on everything, and I mean everything. Veganism is at the forefront of our values, so we promote plant-based living wherever possible. To take the pressure off these guys, we plan on working with materials such as cactus, apple, pineapple and mushroom. Our desire for doing things differently stretches above and beyond our green manufacturing goals. From beach cleanups to tree planting initiatives, we plan on investing our time and our revenues into supporting global and local outreach projects outside of our day-to-day factory operations. For long-lasting positive change to take hold, we believe there needs to be a shift in global consciousness. Through transcendental meditation, we hope to help raise awareness and encourage people to have a more balanced relationship with nature. For Veshin, collaboration is key. For the fashion industry to change for the better, meaningful collaboration and shared culture is fundamental. We want to work with brands that share our core values, our philosophy on accountability, and our desire for a greener future. So if this is you, get in touch and we look forward to going on this journey together.
You okay, Joey? Are you ready to share your video? Ah, there you are. Great.
As well. Okay. I think everyone can hear me now. Hello. Yes. Hello, everyone. Is my screen okay, Dawn?
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Are you just, yeah, there you go, share.
Okay.
Got it.
Well, thanks for having me. P and Dawn. So that was a little introduction video to Veshin. I'm just going to run through basically our factory profile and explain a bit more about what the company is. So Veshin, our little slogan is a home for conscious manufacturing. So our story, Veshin was born in 2020. Basically, I had two business partners, Hong Ling and Xiao Wei. I met them on a business trip in 2018. And basically, I said to Hong Ling that the business I was working for currently, we didn't want to be partnering with a leather goods factory because it didn't seem like a good fit from a sustainability standpoint. So I explained these issues about sustainability and working with leather to Hong Ling, and Hong Ling told me that he basically simply wanted to start a greener factory model. Him and Xiao started to practice the philosophy of Buddhism, and with these principles in mind, they wanted to start a factory that didn't use leather anymore and wanted to be a greener setup. So it was incredible to hear his values, and basically I told Hong Ling that I'd love to consult for him. So I consulted for a year and a half, and I supported him with finding the right materials and finding the right brands to work with. And in the end of 2019, I went back to China and I proposed to Hong Ling what a full-time consultant would look like. So I put together what my vision for the factory would be. And I presented it to Hong Ling, and Hong Ling simply said, "Don't be a consultant. I want you to be the owner of the new factory." And at the time, it was a crazy decision in my life to think about leaving Canada, where I was leaving, and move to China. But I ended up taking this decision, and yeah, and I ended up moving to China. But right now, short term, I'm in the UK. I came back to the UK to see my family. Then I got stuck here because of COVID. So Hong Ling, Xiao, and I decided to launch the new factory last May. And here we are a year later, and things are going quite well. So as you saw just then, video introduction of us. If you go to our website, you can see some more videos. Here's Hong Ling here, handsome man. Here's Xiao Wei, beautiful woman, and then myself. And that's the three of us who are in business together. So what is Veshin? We're an OEM factory. So we specialize in luxury leather goods, handbags and small leather goods. Basically moving forward, we're just converting from using leather to using plant-based leathers. We have the company's built on a foundation of 5 core values. So sustainability, so really taking into consideration how sustainably progressive we can be with everything we produce for our clients, from the building perspective, just being super conscious around sustainability. 2 is radical transparency, so really providing what made in China looks like to the world, celebrating the people who work for us, making sure brands understand who's making their product. So we work closely with an organization called Fashion Revolution to really be able to provide that transparency. We're going through certifications and the audit processes to make sure that we're being socially compliant. But on top of that, it's all about going above and beyond for us. Our 3rd value is plant-based culture. So for myself, I'm vegan, and for Xiao and Hong Ling, they're both vegetarian. The word Veshin is a combination of a British word and a Chinese word. The company name means vegan heart or vegetarian heart. So Shen in Chinese is heart, and VE stands for vegan or vegetarian. So the name really does speak to our plant-based culture. So as I said before, we're moving away from leather and we're looking to move into more plant-based materials. Our 4th value is giving back and offsetting. So with offsetting, it's really taking into consideration our carbon and trying to become carbon neutral over the next few years, and then giving back. And this is why we're here today. We're collaborating with ACTAsia because we want to be able to give and support with our energy and our revenue to a charity that really speaks on behalf of our mission. And that is really supporting children to educate them and understand about the importance of plant-based culture and the importance of looking after animals and working with nature rather than working against it. And then lastly, which I believe is our most important and fundamental value is we're building our company based on a foundation of meditation and wellness. So that simply means we want to build a company philosophy that's built on love and looking after ourselves as individuals. And as individuals, if we can look after ourselves and we can love one another, we can radiate that kind of love into our team and into the industry itself. And then hopefully in the fashion industry, we can radiate that into the bigger picture, which is the globe. So it's very important on planet Earth that we all meditate and we all are calm and we love ourselves. And from there, we'll be able to raise consciousness. And through consciousness, we'll be able to make better decisions as humans and again, work with nature rather than work against it. So our services, myself, I'm a designer, Xiao's a designer. We can offer a design and development, so we can support our brands with designing and then take them from development all the way through to production. Sourcing is my background. I specialize in sustainable sourcing in my career, and now I'm bringing basically all this knowledge of the industry with sustainability in mind to support our clients with sourcing the correct materials, the most progressive materials to use. And then lastly, we're a bulk production factory, so we finish and complete bulk production for the brands we work with. So the materials we work with, right now we're in conversation with loads of incredible suppliers and are currently working with some amazing suppliers. So currently we're working with organic cotton, hemp, tencel, Reprieve is recycled polyester. We can use microfiber as an option for vegan leathers. We can use PEU as an option for vegan leather. We're using apple for one client. We can use cork. We're starting to use pineapple now. We've done a lot of work recently with cactus leather. And then Beyond Leather is a new apple leather in Denmark that's coming out soon. And then Mushroom, which is mycelium leather, which is super exciting. And that's not commercially available just yet for us, but that's the material that we're really hopeful for to really see this shift of moving away from leather into plant-based leathers. Here are some of our clients. So we've been around for about 8 years. We've got a lot of pre-existing clients from our current factory, Hermia. And then Veshin has a few new clients coming in here soon. If you go to our website or our Instagram, you can see more of our press and some podcasts of me listening. And then that's it for the presentation here. Here's my WeChat if anyone wants to connect. And then I'm just going to quickly show you some of the brands we work with and what we can make. So here's one of our Australian clients. We make everything here using cactus leather. So this is what we specialize in is luxury leather goods, bags, wallets, purses, all this kind of stuff is made out of cactus leather. It's crazy to see because we always think cactuses are green, but it's incredible what they're doing in Mexico now. This is another client of men's wallets and watches using cactus leather. And then lastly, this is our client Vouch, and Vouch actually partners with ACT as well. And this bag is made out of apple leather. So there's a good example of some of our clients. And then some of our in-house work that we've done. Some lovely little bags here using cactus leather again. So we speak very closely to the luxury side of fashion, and we want to convert luxury to becoming positive and plant-based. So some nice little wallets here. And yeah, that's it from a product standpoint. And then lastly, if you want to get in touch, you can follow us on Instagram to support us. Here I post a lot about our transparency, about who's working for us, showing our workers off, and being very proud about our mission. And then lastly, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, or as I said before, you can follow me and the company through WeChat. So that's me done speaking. Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully next year, I am practicing my Chinese, so hopefully next time I can speak more Chinese on this call. But really appreciate you having me, and yeah, I'm looking forward to collaborating into the future. And I believe we're going to end it off now with our last video that we did recently for Fashion Revolution that celebrates our factory and the importance of transparency within the industry. Let me just close my screen.
This was Rana Plaza, an 8-story commercial building situated 20 kilometers west of Dhaka, Bangladesh. The building contained banks, shops, apartments, and clothing factories. On the 23rd of April 2013, a local TV station recorded footage of multiple cracks developing within the building. The building was initially evacuated, but the building's owners ignored the warnings and garment workers were ordered back to work the following day. On the 24th of April at 8:57 a.m, Rana Plaza collapsed during the morning rush hour. 3,122 workers were in the building at the time of the collapse. The search for survivors started immediately. Approximately 2,500 people were rescued from the building alive. And 19 days later, when the search was declared over, 1,134 people were confirmed to have lost their lives. A day after the collapse, the factory owners were arrested whilst attempting to evade the authorities. Following an investigation, the collapse of Rana Plaza was deemed to have stemmed from a consistent lack of corporate social responsibility. Change was needed. In the wake of the 2013 Rana Plaza disaster, Fashion Revolution was founded. Since then, Fashion Revolution has become the world's largest fashion activism movement by empowering people to make lasting, positive change. The vision of the movement is to create a global fashion industry that values people over profit and works to conserve and restore the environment. Yet despite 8 years of hard work, human rights issues and environmental degradation remain prevalent within the industry. The COVID-19 pandemic, however, has provided a genuine opportunity to deliver lasting, systematic change. It's time to start things over. Inspired by Fashion Revolution, Veshin Factory was formed in April 2020 as a home for conscious manufacturing, and with a goal to become one of the most sustainably progressive and radically transparent factories in the world. My name is Joey Pringle. I'm the founder of Veshin Factory, and it's time for a Fashion Revolution week.
我是于洪亮，我是微信的合伙人之一。现在是 Fashion Revolution Week.
My name is Xia Wei. I'm the executive director for Veshin Factory. Now it's time for a Fashion Revolution Week.
Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father, run for your children, for your sisters and brothers. Leave all your loving behind. You can't carry it with you if you want to survive. The good days are over, the good days are done. Can you hear the voices? 'Cause we are late call.
Oh, thanks, Joey. That was a really interesting presentation, moving video as well, and a long list of materials. And usually we would call them alternative materials, but I think maybe it's time to start normalizing that we just have this amazing variety of materials to use. And we definitely hold you to the Chinese presentation next year. Thanks. So I'll just share my screen to introduce the next speaker. 1 second. Oh, and just a reminder that if you do have any questions for Joey, please pop them into the chat box or submit them on the streaming, and we will collect those for the Q&A section. So for our next presentation, I'd like to introduce innovation within technology and an award-winning company who has taken product lifecycle management further, Bombyx PLM. Driven by an innovation to offer an efficient and cost-effective software solution to the fashion industry, the founder, Lucy Blackley, will join us today, and she designed Bombyx, but first worked in the product development industry for over 12 years, therefore truly acknowledging the shortfalls encountered during the processes. Lucy designed Bombyx from an industry worker's perspective, and along with providing solutions, Bombyx aims to encourage ethical and global sustainability. Lucy, if you'd like to open your video, there you are, and I'll just try and stop sharing. There we go, so that you can.
Hi there, my name is Lucy Blackley and I'm the founder of Bombyx PLM. We are based in a smallish city in Kingston upon Hull in England, and we help the manufacturing industries just run a little bit smoother and be able to focus on things such as sustainability through having organizational planning. So I'm just going to share my screen for the presentation. I just go, bear with me. And if I can just ask Dawn, can you see the screen?
Perfectly, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so what Bombyx does is we save time for an overworked industry in order to work towards innovative and sustainable products. We enable an actual single source of truth for you and your partners to reduce costs throughout the whole process, from concept to consumer. We provide solutions that empower teams through revolutionized workflow management and collaboration. And we are flipping PLM, which is product lifecycle management, on its head and rewriting the rules to suit the ever-changing landscape of product design and manufacturing. Bombyx, the name itself, comes from the silkworm, which you can see the second image along, and this is called a Bombyx mori. And the reason for the name Bombyx is because fashion, product design in general, from concept through to production, is very much like the metamorphosis of a, of the moth. And so you're going from that egg to the worm to something that I would consider profitable, which is the silk, the cocoon, and then it's spanning and you're going round again. So if I show you here, we have the egg, which is I guess that would be the concept, the beginning of something. You would have the worm, which is working its way through until we get to a product, and then it's about selling that product on. You could refer to that in business as well as product. So Bombyx is basically the metamorphosis of the moth and its similarities between that. As you can see here, we have the light bulb idea, and then you go into the product, and it goes to the e-commerce stage, which is the profit, and then that allows you to rework into your product. Based on a poll from 2,000 employees, 15 weeks of the year on average is wasted due to doing admin, paperwork, and attending meetings in the workplace. Leading research says that only 39% of employees spend their time actually performing their primary job. So basically, what we did with Bombyx was we wanted to give a helping hand to the industry that was very overworked. You've got designers that, as I found out yesterday with one client, only do 15% of their job in designing, yet they are a designer. The majority of their work is administration. So we created Bombyx to avoid those issues and make people be able to be organized and be more sustainable because they've got more time to think about things. They've got data there to produce and look at how things are going to make more, forward working decisions to enable sustainability on what is the material, what is it doing. It's just about having more time to think so that you can innovate. When you're bogged down with so much administration, you're never going to have a sustainable workflow. So it's the importance of it is going digital can help you. I think the foundations of going sustainable should be to do with organization and data consolidation. What we have is the problem is everything is time consuming. All this data entry, you're only doing 15% of your job, for example. The rest is just time consuming. Sorry, my thing is frozen. I do apologize. Just bear with me. Oh, let's try again. So what we have is an industry that is time consuming, it's complex, and it's very expensive. So we wanted to knock that on the head. A lot of software is available. They are super expensive. People in smaller businesses don't have enough money to be able to afford these luxuries. So what we thought was to create something that was more affordable so that people could innovate and become sustainable. Being sustainable is a little bit more expensive than usual, but it shouldn't be the case. If we're using less plastic, why should we be still paying more for using less? So what our idea is to provide a solution that is more affordable so they can focus on those areas of ways of needing to improve. What we want to do is see time saving, which is what Bombyx provides. It's up to 50% more efficient than using an analog service. We want to make the complex simple, and we do that through our aesthetically pleasing design of the system. We're affordable, so we're available from one-man bands up to large corporations. And we want to go from prone to error to improved accuracy. We reuse original data to allow us to ensure that once you've put it in once, you can reuse it again, instead of entering it constantly and being prone to making mistakes. So this is a little bit like the Bombyx ecosystem. You put your items into Bombyx, you pop your design in there for your supplier to understand. You take that through to your bill of materials, enter everything, put your sizing and measurements in, your gradings for sizing an item. Testing, you take your product testing, your requirements, ensure that the product is fit for consumer. You go through to sampling, and then you go through to costing and negotiations, and then you go through to ordering. And you constantly collaborate around that loop. And within that, you've got dashboards, you've got communication, you've got workflow, you've got reminders, you've got all this stuff so you can take your product from concept through to production with all these tools to help you along the way to reduce your time. So, you know, many people say to me with technology, is it taking our jobs? And it's absolutely not. I feel an industry like ours, it needs people. I think we're the heart and soul of it, and we're the ones that keep it going. I don't think robots could do that, you know. But with a system like Bombyx, it is not a replacement for an employee, it is an assistant to the employee. So what we do with Bombyx is we speed up your process by up to 50%. You spend 75% less time searching for information, and we can increase your efficiency by 20%. It actually goes higher now, and you know, we've got people recording that it's up to 50%. It depends on where you are. You know, if you're going from Excel sheets and email and stuff like that to a PLM system, once you get to your final point of implementing the system and being able to use it every day, it can be up to 50%. We can reduce product development costs by 25% through having data to understand where your product is, what you're buying, what you can bulk buy for similar products. And then we have 10% fewer design errors due to using the system. We spend 20% less on design-related travel because collaboration can be done within the system as it creates a single source of truth. We get to the market 50% faster. We can launch products that are 25% more successful, and we complete projects 50% more projects annually. Just having a one-stop shop to avoid people having to have meetings, you know, for products to be on time, to wonder where that testing is or that care label, or, you know, where is the bulk fabric, where is it being approved from? We've got all these things which can make a company perform higher. We've had, you know, quite a few clients, you know, give us testimonials and, you know, talk about how we connect with them. And I think the important thing is that, you know, Bombyx is a tool towards sustainability and ethical practices. I worked in the fashion industry for 12 years. I've seen some absolute horror stories. I've seen, you know, some really unhygienic, places that are just not places to be worked in. They're dangerous, they're unsafe. I've seen people being bullied, not cared for. And what I'm trying to do with Bombyx is to create a transparency around product and awareness so people can have overviews of everything, because they're so overworked. I feel like some issues are missed from people because everyone is so tired, they're so overworked. And what it is, it's to kind of bring people back and give people a good night's sleep, not having to worry about having your product going to miss a deadline, You know, you've got everything on your to-do list, you've got progress bars, so you know where everything is going. And it's just ensuring that everyone is on track. Everyone can relax a little bit. You know, we've seen COVID, we've seen what it's done to us, we've seen what it's done to our mental health. And I feel like now we're coming out of that, I think we need to be more responsible in the work that we put onto people, and actually giving them a digital system would give them a huge advantage into getting the work done. If people wanted to be administrators, they would apply for administrator roles. But these people are applying for design roles, for buying roles, for merchandising roles, for clothing engineering roles, all these different roles. But ultimately, the majority of it is administration. So what we do is we try to remove that from them through using automated and semi-automated features. That's it from me. I'm Lucy Blackley from Bombyx PLM. Thank you very much.
Dawn, you're on mute.
I'm on mute.
Thank you. No, it was me. Sorry.
Okay.
I was just summarising to say it was a really interesting talk and concept for many of us that don't work in fashion. The product life cycle management is you know almost an overwhelming concept. But when you look at the productivity increase, the time and the cost saving, you know, it seems to be an amazing way to make a complex process simple. Sorry.
Yeah, I think for me it's more about kind of looking after people. It's about giving them time and freedom to do their actual job, to not burn people out, and for people to be able to concentrate on innovative products. And because, you know, sustainability starts with people. If we look after people, people can look after the business. And ultimately, we can kind of make a better world through making more informed choices around the materials we use, how much we pay for a product, and the health and well-being of the people and the teams that are doing the work. So I think organisation is key to going towards sustainability.
Brilliant. You've summed it up for me even better than I could. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you very much.
So I think we're back to the agenda now, and just a reminder for people that want to ask any questions for Lucy, please pop them in the chat box and we'll collate them for the Q&A section. So next I'd like to welcome Anson Shen from Les Enphants, China's iconic 50th fur-free retailer, who gives insight into their decision to join the fur-free retailer network and why they see the future as fur-free in their specialism for maternal and children's wear. Anson will dive into consumer preference and expectations through a brand that is really living their values. So welcome to Anson. There we are.
Thank you, the organizer. I just want to thank all the other speakers as well, and also I want to thank the participants. So I'm from Les Elephant, and I am Anson. So for Les Enfant is from the French word of children, and it was established in 1971. And we are also a very established brand with 50 years of history. And then we entered mainland China, and we know that kids are our life's endeavor. And recently we have been committed in providing better lives for children to satisfy the growth needs of the children from 0 to 12 years old. So we provide the children underwear and also the garments, as well as the vet product and also the infant child product, so that we can provide best experience for the families. And also we are trying to provide some layout in our Southeast Asian market, and also go global, to realize that where there is children, there is our footprint. So we would also try to promote reasonable consumption, and also saving Earth is saving more children. And we will definitely pass on that kind of spirit. And we know that this is a story of hope, and this is an image showing that we are trying to inherit the culture and trying to use the different elements in our design of our clothing. And also for Les Elephant, we also have a lot of environmental product. We have the tensile range, and it's more environmental, and also the texture is smoother, and also we use the wormwood, and we have the wormwood ultra thin range. So those degradable product and material can provide more comfort to the consumers, and also it can be more environmental friendly. And also in respect of CSR, we put in relentless effort starting from our establishment. We always donated to the charity organizations, for example, for the Oriental Hope primary schools in China, and also our chairman of the board also said something. He said, if we integrate the core of the company in corporate social responsibility and regard it as our starting point of everything, then this company that we cultivated together, just like a child, would definitely be healthy and happy. And every year, we would go to different places to show that we care, and also we would provide support and also display our love to the children in need in different places. And also we donated some, for example, the classroom buildings for some schools. And this year marks the 50th anniversary of our company, so we got more involved in the social welfare activities. And later, or in the future, there will be more campaigns. And for the environmental protection, we are cooperating with Donghua University to hold the first sustainable fashion public welfare exhibition. We hope that with the future designers and with the academy, we can really merge our environmental friendly concept together so that we can really inherit this kind of environmental spirit in the design. So in this year, in the 10th China Charity Festival, we got elected as the Best Charity Innovation Enterprise Award. And then for Fur Free, actually, Les Elephant is the first maternity and childcare brand to become a fur-free retailer. And Les Elephants joined fur-free means that actually China's fur-free industry not only includes the adults, but also children's products, and also it extends to infants and toddlers. And now, after 50 years, we not only have the business model, we also integrated the corporate core value, and we also integrated the social responsibility. We know that children is the ultimate endeavor, the lifetime endeavor of Les Elephant, and we always believe that the sustainable fashion and design can lead the future development of the children's clothing industry. We know that fur is a distributed issue, and it does have a negative impact on people, animal, and the environment. And also, it is related to the lives of each of us. And we know that harmful chemicals are used in the production and processing of products. And also, it can threaten human health. And also, fur farming brings potential virus risks and is causing irreversible damage to the environment. The Salfin will set an example for the maternity and child industry, and we want to really clean the blue sky for the children. Thank you.
Thanks, Anson. That was a great presentation. And at ACTAsia, we're always very happy with the children's aspects and bringing them into education and a great start in life. So now we will move on. I'll just share my screen again. Yeah, and again, any questions for Anson, please pop them in the chat box on your live stream and we'll collate those. So our next presentation is about A Fur-Free Future Depends on China by Gemma Williams, who brings us a media perspective on consumerism, brands going fur-free, and examples of icons who hashtag say no to fur. Gemma shares insights on Generation Z and a survey of results that show concern for environmentally friendly products. What is the state of the current space in China for emerging designers and brands on a global stage to drive the fur-free message forwards? And unfortunately, Gemma's having some Wi-Fi issues this morning, so we are going to play a pre-recorded presentation for Gemma. But again, as you're listening, if you want to ask questions, please pop them in the chat box.
Thank you, Dawn. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you, Pei, for inviting me. It was lovely too to hear all the other speakers. I've spent over 7 years tracking changes in the fashion industry in China, either as a curator or a writer. But I've noticed that in the last 2 to 3 years specifically, there's been a sea change in attitudes on topics like sustainability, conscious consumption, and animal welfare. These are some of the topics I write about at Jing Daily, and this talk today takes the basis of an article I wrote earlier this year as a result of the mink closures during COVID-19. We were also hoping to develop this as a white paper for Jing Daily in the future. So again, it's super to be able to contribute here today. In the West, there's been a big drop-off in fur's desirability in recent years, coupled with a decline in the use of fur in the fashion industry by big luxury names, which has been well documented in media. But this has meant that in 2019, the global fur market was estimated to be worth more than 22 billion a year. On to the next slide, I can see that luxury brands and retailers around the world are moving towards a fur-free future by signing up to the fur-free retailer scheme, which totals 1,500 companies. Over the past 4 years particularly, Gucci, Burberry, Michael Kors and others have gone fur-free. London Fashion Week has banned fur, and retailers like Farfetch and Saks have banned fur as well. Last month, Alexander McQueen and Balenciaga were the latest to make their pledges. Now, post-pandemic, the dynamics of the industry have further shifted as more businesses have closed and governments have clamped down on fur farming. This means that in the West, it's unlikely that this will ever be acceptable to wear as a trend again. In this slide here, we see such a great list of names who have been joining the Fur-Free Alliance since the 1990s, from Calvin Klein to Chanel to Macy's department store. So when it comes to China's relationship with fur, we can see here that the landscape is a very interesting one. China's role in the global supply chain has historically been underestimated, and that makes it quite difficult to locate accurate figures. For example, the latest figures on mink production from the China Leather Industry Association show that pre-pandemic, China produced more pelts than expected, just under 12 million. And this was almost 5 million more than anticipated in 2019. Therefore, it's very hard to get an accurate picture of the full extent of China's production. Onto the next slide, we can see that it's equally difficult to predict what kind of future fur production has in China. But it seems that the global production is dependent on the country. This year alone, the West, media in the West has been drilling down into China's role in this and have been asking the question, does a fur-free future depend on China? Firstly, it remains that China is one of the largest markets for fur consumption, and attitudes to fur from consumers to the media have remained relatively solid. Current estimates circulating value China's fur farming industry as $61 billion. It's also a notable contributor to local growth and employment, especially in underdeveloped regions in the north and northeast. As China exited the pandemic relatively quickly compared to global standards, there's not been the same attention in terms of responses to animal welfare issues. However, the local media has been reporting a decline in fur consumption during 2020. CCTV reported that demand for fur was lower than the production and the prices had plummeted to a record low. And Xinhua News had said that in 2020, China's registration for fur-related businesses had decreased by 27%. On the other side here, we come to Finnish auction house Saga Furs, which told me that China is buying around 70 to 80% of the global fur and that demand has remained strong thanks to rising wealth. Saga Furs, which is now one of the main suppliers of fur in Europe, held a live stream during the pandemic in December 2020, which kept it connected to global buyers, especially from China. Many fashion companies such as LVMH, which was kept afloat by China sales during the crisis, are sourcing furs from here. The business director at the company declined to name names, but told me that brands and the designer community are still supporting the use of furs. But within that, she said this includes a focus on quality and certified natural products. And she's also seeing an increasing focus on the use of sustainable furs, also from Chinese brands. You can see here 3 Chinese brands that they have sold fur to recently as per the company website. And despite the number of brands that have gone fur-free in recent years, I've found that many international companies and brands, whether fur-free or not, decline to promote any specific brand message on the issue when it comes to China. In the next slide, we can see here a pivot to digital that has kept fur sellers connected to the market in China during this last few years. After the pandemic broke, but before the contamination of mink was a talking point, fur sellers had already adapted digitally. According to figures from the Copenhagen Fur China team via 8 major online retail stores, total sales during Double 11 reached $16 million, indicating an upward trend. Hainan Leather City, dubbed the leather capital of China, opened a cloud mall on Taobao, where consumers could browse fur coats online from around 100 merchants. The deputy general manager told Sohu News that there are huge opportunities within the online fur business since the demand of leather clothing exceeded supply this year. At the time of my article, the 2 big tech players in China both declined to comment on whether they will ban the sale of fur products in the future. These big players are so integral to the Chinese community and consumers that if they decided to ban fur, it would seriously disrupt the industry. Alibaba's acquisition of luxury e-tailer Farfetch, which has a very strong fur-free commitment, might force the agenda. And if this happened, it could have a very positive domino effect on other e-tailers. On the next slide, speaking of consumers, we're now seeing the emergence of more ecologically minded citizens in China. In a recent article with digital agency Tong, I wrote about this new conscious consumer for Jing Daily. While it's true that this more thoughtful way of living has been accelerated by COVID-19, it was already fermenting in consumers' consciousness before that. A report by McKinsey & Co. in 2019 found that department store consumers will double their purchasing of sustainable products in the next 5 years and are moving away from ones that have sustainability concerns, including animal welfare. By the end of the 2020 Singles Day Festival, more than 200 million people participated in the Go Green campaign, and China announced a ban on single-use plastics and has set the tone for green recovery from COVID-19, including a commitment to carbon neutralization by 2060. The rise of the cat economy, or the pet economy, means that more people are having and caring for pets. Animals offered much emotional support during the pandemic. And of course, China's top live streamer, Austin Lee's pet dogs can be said to have fueled an interest in this market. The number of cat owners in China increased too in 2020 compared to 2019, and cats are becoming increasingly popular pets. China has also announced cruelty-free legislation in certain cosmetics this year too, which indicates a move towards a more humane approach to safety testing. So coming on to influencers and key opinion leaders, these hold much sway when it comes to directing public opinion in China, but it's actually a bit of a mixed bag. Some KOLs and celebrities still wear fur, and this means that acceptance of fur is quite high. And we're seeing the influence from actresses to celebrities across the board. From my research, it was quite difficult to find many KOLs that were outspokenly anti-fur. However, there are a few, and the best cases are often KOLs wearing fake fur. One instance I found was the popular variety show Running Man China, which hosted a show with celebrities representing social issues, and the actor Zen K chose to stand against fur. Popular idols against fur include Kai Ku-kun, excuse my pronunciation, who's worn fake fur, and also TF Boys member Won Jun Kai, who is also a United Nations ambassador. The Chinese influencer Kong Ya, who has almost 600,000 fans, has worn fake fur. This quote here in the slide is from Chinese streetwear brand SMFK and was featured on fashion-themed show Fortree. This next slide shows a quote here from the actress Han Dong-tung, but the issue would definitely benefit from more high-profile celebrities coming out and taking part in the anti-fur debate and amplifying more anti-fur voices online. Indeed, online forums are a great place to find netizen opinions, and interestingly, through its Sina Foundation, Weibo is also fighting against fur to some extent. The platform has 3 million followers. But taking China as a whole, I would say that the majority of consumers are still somewhat indifferent to the topic. And this is for a variety of reasons, from education to familiarity. But as we can see from the next slide, there are a number of positive signs. In a survey of 5,400 consumers across 6 cities, ACTAsia has found that 71 consumers said they would rather buy fashion items from fur-free brands and expect fur-free to be the next trend, which is great news. Moreover, on social media, there are many netizens are expressing many fur-free opinions themselves. On Weibo, the hashtag Say No to Fur has 90 million views, while the hashtag When the Buying Stops, the Killing Can Too is faring better with 340 million views. And again, from this side, we can see it's really the younger Chinese citizens who are offering the most hope. And as the future drivers of the country's tastes, their choice can tell us much about how fur's future will unfold. In 2019, global strategy consulting firm OC&C conducted an in-depth survey of 15,500 respondents from 9 countries and assessed that Gen Zers in China are far more concerned by environmentally friendly consumption. According to Boston Consulting Group, Gen Z consumers are the first generation to place more value on animal welfare than all other sustainability issues when purchasing luxury goods. And this has been played out in China too. According to ACTAsia, a significant shift has occurred among millennials and younger shoppers, moving away from larger fur items such as coats and jackets, although still not from smaller fur trimmings. But what is also notable is the pledging of Chinese retailer Les Enphants to go fur-free. And this news is especially relevant for young millennial parents, some of whom will be opting to bring up children without fur. If young Chinese children lose their familiarity with the material from early days, this is where we can see much positive change for animal welfare going forward. And then on the next slide, we can see that the names refusing to work with fur cover a small but very wide range, going from sustainability luxury leader Icicle, which topped Tmall's 11/11 ranking as the biggest selling luxury brand in 2020, through to established designer brand Ji Chen, who shows at Shanghai Fashion Week. So for every brand which has normalized fur over the years, there is a complete turnaround among the new generation of brands operating today. And what is most exciting is that China's new wave of independent designers emerged as a key pillar at Shanghai Fashion Week this season, indicating their importance in the local fashion economy. Given their popularity as influencers in their own right, Their refusal to work with fur means they can promote positive change within the industry and also among their fans too. As we can see for the next slide, as their reach grows domestically, it's also growing on the global stage too, through appearances at fashion weeks around the world, alongside increasing retail opportunities, as well as luxury collaborations. They're changing perceptions about China's design aesthetic, and with that, the use of fur, which again has a knock-on implication back home. 3 designers I would particularly like to include quickly here were award winners at this year's U Prize, announced at Shanghai Fashion Week. As the biggest domestic award to support the next generation of designers, it's a barometer of industry development and a strong signal that the winners were not only sustainable, but anti-fur. The brand we can see here, Chenpeng, won the overall prize. The inspiration for his winning collection was sparked by the waste of the North Pacific Sea and plastic pollution waste. The New Land collection is also a further declaration of Chenpeng's fashion equalitarianism, also known as his one-size fashion, which calls for the coexistence of humans and nature and for achieving ecological balance. The next designer I'd like to highlight here is Susan Fang, who has achieved global recognition and been featured in retailer Selfridge's Project Earth initiative. She makes her signature marble bags from dead stock, and the soles of her shoes are made from TPU, which is biodegradable. She's also promoting a strong anti-fur message. And finally, another newcomer, Donze 10. The brand has a tagline, "The sustainable brand young people prefer," and aims to convey the concept of sustainable fashion and social responsibility to the younger generation. It chooses PLA, an environmentally friendly alternative to leather. So I think this is a very important shift in taste to note, and while it's currently quite small, it's very credible and potent, and there's a massive uptick in domestic homegrown brands, and they can help to eradicate fur from the supply chain. So just in closing, I've landed back on my original article. I think the bottom line here is that given the overall sway away from fur and a demand for more traceability and sustainable supply chains, the persistence of fur in the luxury market now largely depends on its presence in China. As such, the direction of Gen Z interests in China could very well determine the future of the fur industry altogether. But the media, tech giants, consumers, and online communities have a role to play in this too. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Gemma. And I know that you are with us today and we'll be joining for the Q&A. So we look forward to that. But thank you for the recording as our backup plan to Wi-Fi problems. It's great to see that there are changes happening within the industry, and that everybody does have a role to play in it, whether you're a consumer, a brand, or the media. But it is really encouraging to see the different influencers that are speaking up for fur-free, and the handles and the hashtags to be able to know how to communicate these messages as well. It's really important. So I think we'll move on to our final speaker today, our final presentation, which is China emerging as a global leader in sustainability. I'd like to welcome Victoria Ho, who will present sustainability and the global shift towards nature becoming the driver of decisions under the urgency of climate change. Victoria shares examples of where design, sourcing, and business decisions can be led by nature. An overview of where ACTAsia and fur-free sits within sustainability, and the role of education. And we will also, I'm looking forward to this, listen to the launch of the Compassion in Fashion, Sustainability and the Global Fur Trade on FutureLearn, a course on the e-learning platform which is available to use worldwide. There we are.
Hi, hello. And I think someone will be sharing my screen for me. Is that right, Isabel? Brilliant.
Yeah, so, I think it's working.
Brilliant. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. So what I thought I would do is just start by explaining a bit of my background. So I have 16 years of lecturing experience and I specialize in transnational education. Alongside this, I have 11 years of industry experience as a designer and working and manufacturing. Most of my working life has been centered in or around Vietnam. And in 2014, I had the privilege of becoming a co-founder at Fashion for Freedom. And I'll explain more about Fashion for Freedom in a minute. In 2019, I was officially recognized by the Vietnamese government as an investor into philanthropy in Vietnam through the work that is done at Fashion for Freedom. And also through Fashion for Freedom, I am now enrolled on a practice-based PhD at the London College of Fashion in the Centre for Sustainable Fashion. I would really say my career has been that mixture between education, business, and more recently research, that kind of holistic approach. Next slide, please.
Victoria, sorry, but because we got interpreter, so they say, can you slow down a little bit?
Absolutely, sorry about that.
All right.
So Fashion for Freedom, we're based in Vietnam and we are actually two parts of our organization. We have a social enterprise part, which deals with sort of the trade aspect of what we do. And we also have an NGO locally based partner, and they deal with the fundraising, investment, training and infrastructure side. We are 100% a female team and we are locally driven and grounded in Vietnam, Asia. I have a quote here from our website and I think it really sums up what we're about. Scalability, productivity and price competitiveness are possible achievements alongside social and environmental performance. Next slide, please. So the next slide, sorry. This slide really shows an overview of our business model. It's very complicated, so I've sort of created this to try and explain how we work. And we have three sort of core objectives. Number one is economic development, which is very much with the NGO side, investment, training, infrastructure. Number two is sustainability. You know, the fact that we want to create a model that enriches the society and the environment in which it occurs. And number three is culture, preservation of traditional knowledge and ways of being and doing. And we have sort of three core outputs from this. Obviously, there's a focus on business. We do production for industry, and we also do consultation for industry, for startups, fashion education, for other NGOs and social enterprises. And we also do consultation on cultural sustainable development. Alongside this is awareness. We're very focused on that output, awareness of fashion freedom, but also those bigger issues which we deal with. We have collectively spoken worldwide at events, conferences, and universities. We've exhibited in multiple countries, and we work with press and media to build up that awareness. Alongside this, we really understand the need to be involved with education and research for long-term impact. So we work with multiple universities. Underneath all of this, we also have two brands. We have a high-end brand and we have a mid-level menswear line. Next slide, please. I thought it'd be really useful here just to sort of talk about kind of a key shift in sustainable fashion. And this is something that's been happening in the last few years and is just going to get more and more. On the left of this slide, you very much see those kind of pillars of sustainability, which is, you know, most people have seen, which talks about the balance between social, economic, and environment in business models. I would say actually now sustainability is moving more and more towards recognizing the central importance of nature, biodiversity, and the environment, that nature needs to be placed central to design and business decisions. And it is this, and only this, that will ensure fashion is truly sustainable. Next slide, please. And this has really happened because we have a deadline of just under a decade, that's just under 10 years, to avoid devastating global climate change. So obviously the environment is becoming more and more important. We are all aware that the fashion industry is a contributor to this. Fashion sustainability needs a complex and interwoven approach that is not just centered around the environmental problems resulting from a fashion product and the process of making it, but the psychology of the individuals and societies that consume it and the local and global economic and trade infrastructures that surround it. Next slide, please. There is a global shift happening where fashion business models are moving away from ones that are purely driven by economic factors, but moving towards ones that are propelled by a combination of factors such as the environment, well-being, and economic. At Fashion for Freedom, nature is central to all our design and production decisions. Our impact on the environment, a positive impact, is actually one of our indicators of success and a key value we provide to other customers. We do this in multiple ways, things like our methods of production, ones that have the least impact on the environment, whether that's technology or traditional methods. The materials we use, zero waste, upcycling, reclaimed waste, overrun from factories, traditional materials. We're also very focused on our carbon footprint, sourcing of local materials. And also our production timeline supports the many artisans and communities that we work with. Many of our artisans are farmers who use traditional, non-invasive farming methods. Next slide, please. What I've got now is a few examples of some of our products and processes, just to explain how we look at the environment to help us kind of make decisions, both design-wise and business. Here to begin with is the Teoi tribe, which are a weaving community in the mountain region in Hue, Vietnam. In 2014, Fashion for Freedom approached Coats Threads with an idea to utilize their waste. Coats produce 6 tons of factory excess threads per year in Vietnam. So we now are actually in partnership with Coats Threads, and they donate to 12 weaving communities that we work with. So obviously there's localization, there's reusing waste, and there's traditional methods going on there. And on the next slide, you can see some examples of the fabrics that have been done using Coats Threads, but also how they've been put into garments and accessories on either side. Next slide, please. Here is an example of the wood carver we work with, where we use wood sustainably harvested in Hue, Vietnam. That means trees that have naturally fallen down, as this has a lower impact on the environment. Using naturally harvested wood has actually evolved our model of purchasing and storing the wood for production. So this is a really good example of how being, respectful to nature has impacted our business model. In this case, the purchasing, because obviously we need to purchase outside of the rainy season. Next slide, please. Another example of how we work with kind of waste material is our data mine jewelry collection. And this uses silver that has been reclaimed from old technology. The silversmith actually sources it from the city he lives in, and it's handmade using traditional techniques, and then obviously sold through our networks. Next page, please. I think it's really important also to kind of discuss China. China is emerging as a global leader in sustainability, particularly in green technologies and sustainable solutions. With an in-depth understanding and experience of climate change and its impacts. Specifically, China is really focusing in circular economy, the reduce input and waste, reuse and recycle. Obviously, they have quoted to be carbon neutral by 2060, which is amazing. And there's a lot of input going into green parks, green factories, green design. And actually, the picture in this slide is 9 kilometers from the Pearl Tower in Shanghai along the river. It's amazing. China is hosting the UN Convention on Biological Diversity this October. That's already been previously mentioned. And the theme for the conference is Ecological Civilization, Building a Shared Future for All Life on Earth. It is globally recognized that the greening of manufacturing is crucial for developing a more sustainable economy in which nature can thrive. Next slide, please. And I think this really brings us nicely to ACTAsia and really understanding where ACTAsia sits within sort of the kind of fashion sustainability. We know that ACTAsia obviously informs us about the absolute brutal cruelty around fur production, but also the immense negative impact it has on the environment. You know, ACTAsia definitely fits in this new shift really, really strongly. Next slide, please. The next thing I really want to talk about is the role of education in sustainability. There really is a need for a holistic approach to tackling sustainable issues within the industry. If education, business, and research do everything separately, the impact will not be the same. Businesses need to support and invest time in nurturing its future leaders, both the ones it has in its company and those future leaders that will be there in 5-10 years. Education needs to be delivering courses that are relevant to the industry and address key issues within it. And the students from these courses need to emerge equipped with the skills and knowledge to be future leaders in the industry. So once again, I think it's really important to just summarize that holistic approach that we all need to be working together as that kind of fashion sustainability kind of community, both within China and globally. Next page, please. And this really brings us to this really exciting, course that has been developed by ACTAsia, London College of Fashion. I'm so excited that this is coming to China. There are already some leading universities that are looking to incorporate this into their curriculum next academic. And what I want to say here is this course is not only open to students, but open to professionals. And I really, really encourage businesses to get their staff enrolled on this, their young designers, anybody who's interested in sustainability. This course has been developed and informed by global leading experts, by global leading education and research institutions. It's, if your people come onto this course, they will come across new approaches in design and business thinking. This course encourages reflective and creative thinking. There's analytical skills and it nurtures collaboration. It's free to study. It comes both in Chinese and English. And as you can see, I am completely supportive of this amazing, amazing course. So I'd like to go to the final slide now. And here is a QR code. So I really strongly advise everyone right now to scan this. It will take you to the page where you can sign up for this course. Remember, it is free. And the first course is going to run, I think it's 2 weeks today. I think that's correct. So please, make sure everybody scans this and go and find out more about this really exciting course. So I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. And once again, I would just really like to thank ACTAsia for inviting me to come on and speak.
Thank you, Victoria. That's been a great presentation. I hope everyone did have a chance to scan that QR code. Yeah, thank you for your support in that. Really beautiful pictures of the threads in the garments there, and the silver jewelry, and the stories behind them, and how those businesses are approaching using these materials. It's just incredible. I think the point about businesses, research, and education working together, that synergy, yeah, we sing all the same tune, and it's just really good to hear that coming through, working together as a community, and a global community at that. Really valuable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so that brings us now to our the end of the presentations and to the Q&A section. And so I'd just like to introduce John Lau, from who is the Associate Dean at the School of Design and Technology at London College of Fashion. John leads a world-renowned portfolio of programs in fashion design and technology in clothing, footwear, accessories, jewelry, and textiles. As the first ethnic minority and youngest Associate Dean, he continues his mission to be a catalyst for inspiring creative and original work through education. John cares for a compassionate future in the fashion industry and is an ACTAsia education champion, working to eradicate the use of fur in the fashion industry by educating generations of aspiring designers to make more positive choices for a compassionate future. So I'll hand over to you, John, and welcome the speakers to open their videos. And I'll stop sharing so that we've got some space on the screen there. We've got.
Thank you, Dawn, and hello, Shanghai, and everybody else who is joining us from around the world too. And as Dawn said, I am John Lau, and I'm the Associate Dean for the School of Design Technology at London College of Fashion. And today I am going to be inviting the speakers back again to this Q&A part of the forum. And I just want to say thank you also to ACTAsia for and all of the supporters of ACTAsia for this moment today. It's always been very exciting to be working with you. I have a series of questions, and you have also been submitting questions to me as well to ask the forum speakers. The first one I have to ask is to Joey. Joey, now in your presentation, you mentioned that you work with a lot of plant-based materials. Which ones are actually the most sustainable, and which ones are the most versatile and popular with your clients? Which ones are the ones that are attracting your clients to move away from animal leathers into plant-based materials?
Okay, so the ones that are the most popular right now would be cactus leather. The reason being is it's commercially available. Logistically, it's easier to source it and buy it. From a functionality standpoint, it's easier to replicate the luxury feel of a product. We can paint the edges, we can finish it to the same level as we could with a leather bag. On top of cactus leather, Pinatex is another commercial material. It's not the most popular right now because Pinatex is more designed for shoes and apparel, but there's some great innovation happening with Pinatex, which is the pineapple fabrics that will be more readily available for bags. So we're hopefully seeing a shift with more Pinatex used this year. From the question being the most sustainable, actually it's very complicated right now from a vegan leather standpoint, because even though it's moving away from not using animals, there is still plastic used in the composition. So it is tricky right now because a lot of brands and a lot of consumers don't like to use plastic. But if you put that against using animals, it's obviously a more sustainably progressive choice. But what's going to happen soon in the next year or so is we're going to start seeing more materials that are not using any plastic or not using any animals. So mycelium, for example, the mushroom leather, is a great example of this. And there's also other incredible plant-based materials like Mirum, which is called Natural Fiber Welding, is the company in America. And then there's another solution using compost waste and green waste. So these are the ones that are going to be the most sustainably progressive. Right now, the most progressive would be cactus leather, because it's using the plant-based aspect of cactuses. But it's a journey, and we're right at the start of it. So it's the solution to get away from animal leather, but sustainability in mind, it's not there quite yet, but we're definitely on the path.
Okay, so I guess in comparison between the plant-based materials and the leather, would you advocate still moving over to plant-based materials and putting animal products to one side so that we can work towards a much more greener solution using plant-based materials?
Definitely. I mean, that's the path moving forward. I believe, being vegan myself, that animals shouldn't be part of the process for us in the fashion industry, and animals should live their lives freely without being considered into any type of product. So right now we need to be investing into this side of the industry. We need to be innovating into this side of the industry. And we're starting to see those changes happening. We've seen it in the food industry in the last few years, a huge boom in the vegan food movement. And we will see that coming up here in the next couple of years in fashion. 2022 is going to be a very exciting year for seeing these plant-based materials come out. So we're definitely seeing a change, and it is definitely the future.
Thank you, Joey. I, for one, am really looking forward to 2022 and also some of the exciting build-up towards that. My next question is for Lucy. Now, Lucy, the company that you have developed is so exciting, and I think it's one that the fashion industry really needs. And you say that PLM is a very efficient management system that can help save time and resources, and it gives a lot of transparency and time efficiency. Can you talk a little bit more about how this can free up people to do their jobs better, and how it actually impacts on people's well-being? I mean, human well-being is at the forefront of everybody's minds at the moment. How do you think the system can support that?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. So the system, it's built around logging data, but also using original data and reusing that. The amount of times that people enter the same data into spreadsheets day in, day out, and having to constantly duplicate that. If they've got another product that's similar, they then have to re-enter it for that one. Maybe it's a copy and paste job. Maybe they're going from an email to a PDF to an Excel sheet to something on the internet that's web-based that needs uploading. And the point of a PLM is to create one single source of truth, which I would say is the red thread. And it brings everyone together under one digital roof from your suppliers. So not just your main supplier, but you can attach your raw materials supplier, your component supplier. All of these people can be in there, and you can know where your product's coming from. Ethical audits, building audits, anything to do with certification to state, that they are, for example, fair free, anything like that, so that people know where they're at. But what we're doing right now is we're building on that platform to be more, right now it's per company, per business, but we're looking at ways in which the product can be used by multiple people, and they can ping into each other, and it comes up on their dashboards, and the work goes from one company to another company. We call them slugs. So for example, let's say ACTAsia.bombyxplm.com, and then you'd have a supplier, let's call them jerseytex.bombyxplm.com, and between them they'll see each other's work and collaboration through that, and looking at ways in which we can purchase those products so that we know where they come from. So just raising purchase orders, eventually being able to pay for them through that. So we've got accountability for those people. We know that people are being paid the minimum wage, or ideally the living wage. and all sorts like that. So it's a very complex system, but we're taking it one step at a time. We've been doing it for 5 years now, and we've had significant growth in the last year, and yeah, we plan to kind of take it to the next level and just flip PLM on its head, because the current way of PLM it doesn't work like a designer or a buyer or a merchandiser or a technologist. It is just a glorified spreadsheet in a lot of cases. And what we've done is we've tried to create the system so that it acts like a person, in the sense of how it would work. Okay, that's switched off, or that's approved, that needs to be followed through to there. And it allows people to have some assistance. So it's, you know, it's a much more user-friendly way for people in specific product roles.
No, that's great. It sounds really quite incredible what you've managed to do in a very short space of time to develop this. And so what do you think the role of blockchain is in your PLM, and how can that be extended to developing sustainable fur-free fashion for brands and businesses?
I think it needs to be, I think before anything can happen, it's all about collaboration. And, you know, too many brands at the minute are giving suppliers ways of working that are individual to that brand, but it would be easier if there was a universal standard for suppliers to lead on what their standards are, because they're the ones that were working with multiple brands and multiple products. I feel at the moment, there's too many brands working in too many different ways with too many different requirements. And I feel it should be on the other side, where the supplier is saying, okay, we need this, this, and this. They know the product, they know how to manufacture it, they know what information they need. But sometimes I feel like brands can be slightly excessive in what they're requiring from a brand for such small quantities. And it's good that we're reducing the quantities to stop overconsumption. But equally, if these are sustainable materials, you know, there's a lot more work that goes into 500 pieces than goes into 20,000 pieces. And sometimes it just seems a little bit ridiculous for the amount of profit they would get to then reinvest back into their business. So, you know, it's not all the cases, but it's definitely something where something needs to happen in order to make blockchain and PLM, you know, kind of connect in that way to really work. We need should we say, a gold standard so that people can work in almost like a uniformed way. And I think it is happening more now. The more clients we have on board, the more we see they're changing their mindset based on coming on the system, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't need to use that anymore. We don't need that anymore. We can actually do it this way. This is a much simpler way of working. And I think it's about getting people to change from analog to digital, and understanding what they did doesn't have to be taken into the future, and it's just a force of habit that stops them from looking forward and streamlining.
Yes, I think you've made a really good point there, and I think with the pandemic and what's been happening, and a lot of people who are working remotely now, I think this is potentially a huge growth area in the future, and yeah. I think this pandemic is actually going to speed that up for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that kind of leads me on to the next question, which is to Victoria, and about the changing industry, what has changed in the past and what's going to be changing in the future. So Victoria, it's always great to see a colleague from London College of Fashion. And you mentioned that you have worked in Vietnam for such a long time, for about 14 years, and now you've been in China for 3. How do you see the Southeast Asian sustainable fashion industry developing? How did you see it develop over the last 20 years? And where do you see it going in the next 20?
I think it's the last 20 years, it's completely gone from sort of almost nothing to where it is now. So the growth has been incredibly immense. And I speak both, you know, my experience of Vietnam and China, and also I've lived in Singapore as well. So the growth has been huge. And I really think that's because the countries have gone through such huge transformation. The very nature of how they're structured is incredibly dynamic. So you've got businesses that are adapting in all different areas, and it's almost equipped them, well, it has equipped them to be able to adapt to the issue of sustainability. And I think it's also much more real in Southeast Asia and Asia because you're much more aware of the environmental impact. So I think that's also part of an urgency that you definitely feel out here. Where do I think it's going? I can't wait to see where it's going. I think, part of me reckons that in the next 5-10 years, we'll be having conversations about multiple countries in this area being the leaders in sustainability. I mean, China's already committed to some amazing kind of things that are happening out here, and they will be implemented, and it will be really exciting to see that. And there'll be countries that lead the way in different areas too.
That's really good to hear, because I think that it's that development in China at the moment that could potentially it is already, but also potentially really lead the way because of their manufacturing capabilities. What sort of circular materials are being currently used in China, like wooden material and metal in your presentation? Are there any other circular materials that are used?
But I think for my interest, I would say, obviously we know there's a lot of stuff that's happening in sort of math industry around sort of textiles and looking at circular fabrics in that area. I think for me, what is really interesting, and actually Gemma picked up on this in her presentation, is looking at those sort of smaller independent designers and some of the ways they're starting to think. And actually Gemma already mentioned her, which was Susan Fang. I really am interested in the way that she is literally everything she does with her design and production is deep rooted in circular thinking. She really is informed by nature and traditional knowledge, from her use of using dead stock to recycled materials to biodegradable materials. She draws on traditional knowledge, which is in fact her own heritage of bamboo farming, which has informed the development of her production and design model. She, produces one-off pieces. Any leftover waste is reutilized elsewhere in her collections and her work. And she also donates any excess stuff to, I think it's the Yi minority group, and they can use it as well. So, for me, that's what's really exciting, is seeing those dynamic business models where it's not just one aspect of circularity, they're actually bringing in lots of different things. And for me, that's really, really exciting.
That's really exciting, and I think you've sold it to me, definitely. But talking about exciting business models and exciting brands and businesses, Anson for Les Enfants, congratulations on becoming the first infant and maternity fashion brand in China to join fur-free retailers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your fur-free fashion plans going forward? Because it sounds very exciting. Will you always be fur-free when you are expanding?
For our concept, it really echoes well with FSR, and we really value environmental protection. From the raw material side, we already considered the environmental friendliness, and also during the production, packaging, and also for the green circular concept application in the industry chain. And also on the sales end, we would provide more knowledge sharing for the consumers to understand more about environmental protection. And at the same time, with the CSR work in academies, in communities, in public spaces, we would put in more effort to talk around this topic of for free to really promote healthier lifestyle. So in the future, we would try to build the good and the healthy and positive image of the fashion industry, and we will try to play that role.
Thank you, and that sounds great. But your commitment to this, and we have a question from the audience who has asked. Who have said that they've noticed that there are many products in Les Enfants are made from plant fibers, especially clothing. They want to ask what or who inspired you? What was the change of production costs moving to plant-based fibers?
So actually, for the environmental friendly concept or the fabric or the material or the product development, for those things, they are like a guide for us to care for the children. And that has been our inspiration. We hope that for the children where the users or the babies or the children and also the parents, when they buy and use the product, they can experience and understand our sense of responsibility and understand the criticality towards the nature. So that has been embedded in our corporate culture as well as our sales channel, as well as our recovery of the used product. So it's embedded in all of the system and also in all of our market campaigns, and also it's embedded in our CSR activities. So all of our activities would take the environmental protection as one of our core concepts to be carried out.
Great, thank you for that, and I wish you every success as you go forward with Liaison for. I'm very excited to follow your brand in the future. And talking about all these different brands and these business models that are using these alternative products now, materials that are growing in popularity. But one thing that we need to always come back to is the treatment of animals and the reasons why we want to move to these alternatives, why we want to design for a better future. So, Pei, we have received a question about animals and how they're treated. Is it true that animals were skinned alive when during fur production? Some say it's not true. What do we say to people who say it's not true? What's our response to that?
Thank you, John. I'm going to speak in Chinese, so please forgive me to enable more our people in China to understand the issues. 就是说
So when we talk about whether the animals are skinned alive, actually, before we answer that, we want to explain in fur, we need to understand how we farm the fur, so the animals are alive. So when you want to harvest the fur, of course, the animals will shake. So you have to get them unconscious or kill the animal to farm the fur. So sometimes in northeast China, sometimes the farmers would hire the fur farmers, or so-called the fur hitters. So when we farm the furs, normally they will use a wooden stick to knock on the head of the animal, so the animal will become unconscious. But if you do that, sometimes the force is uneven. So this is the so-called stunning. And during the stunning, it's not done by machine. So sometimes the animals are unconscious, but it's temporary. So during the skinning, sometimes they would wake up. So that is what we say, sometimes they are skinned alive. And also in Western world, sometimes when they are gassed before skinning, still the animals are not totally unconscious sometimes. So what I want to say is that it doesn't matter what kind of method we use. During the skinning, actually, the method is quite inhumane. And the most important thing is that when I talk with a lot of people about this, well, actually, for the fur animals, starting from the raising of the animals, they are imprisoned. And also, their nature habits are ignored. And sometimes they hurt themselves, and sometimes they eat their own children. Sometimes they fight, and sometimes they get sick, and to the tragic killing of the animal. What's it for? It's really brutal, and it's unsustainable beauty that we got. So if we ignore the animal welfare, still fur can carry COVID-19. And also, the fur farm industry can add to the carbon footprint, and that is something we cannot ignore.
Thank you. That sounds something that this is something that we really do have to consider when consumers are confronted with the choice to wear or not wear fur. And but when people are making the choice to not wear fur, there are some people that are wearing fur out of, let's say, necessity or religious reasons. What do you think is the appropriate approach to this when we are explaining our stand on fur-free fashion?
I think we, as a human, under the COVID, we are facing a huge challenge. So
during the COVID-19 pandemic, what we are facing is an enormous challenge globally. People, nature, and animal, the relationship among the three needs to be reinterpreted. Even in religions, when we talk about the issue, we need to understand sometimes the fur can bring the virus and it can harm our health. So what we want to interpret is the relationship between people and the animal. So in religion, you still need to think about, well, you need to think about, do you value your health? That is personal choices that you need to make. From the leadership perspective or from the organization perspective, we need to think about the general situation. We need to think about whether you make that choice for being beautiful, or whether you make that choice being because of you want to be healthy, or whether you make that choice because of the religion. That is something you need to consider.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And talking on the one hand about people who are wearing fur out of necessity, but also then on the other hand, we have consumers making this choice. And Gemma, I have a question for you. In your presentation, you say that amongst fashion designers, sustainable and fur-free is a growing trend. How does the media portray fur-free fashion in China?
Yeah, that's a really great question, John. And I think it's slightly complicated. I think overall the media are quite used to presenting fur in a very positive light. There's lots of fashion shows and fur-related events that take place in China. Copenhagen Fur especially receives a lot of positive press. There's been a lot of attention on sustainable fur recently. And I think maybe the issue is that a lot of brands that are fur-free don't necessarily shout about it. So that message is maybe kind of being missed, I think. For example, I know a lot of young independent designers, and I kind of have to ask them, are you fur-free? And they will say yes, but they don't necessarily feel the need to kind of say that, which in a way is great because it means that among them it's so normalized now. But I mean, I think for maybe consumers, it's good for them to kind of reiterate that message. So I think in the press, that kind of areas may be slightly missing, and there could be a little bit more done in that area. There is a lot about fake fur, which is in itself good, but it's getting that step to actually being fur-free.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage brands to kind of maybe bring that up a little bit more when they're talking to the press.
Thank you. And so do you feel like there needs to be much more transparency on the effects of the fur industry on the animal, human, and the environmental impacts? Do you think that there needs to be more done in this area?
Yes, definitely. I think that's always a way to kind of inspire change in people. But one thing that's happening recently, which is very, very topical, is the issue of the blind boxes for pets. These are random boxes you can buy that contain a surprise pet, and the pet is alive. But there's been a lot of outcry in China about this practice. So I think that's really, really positive. And I think it's actually going to be investigated now at the moment. And one of the couriers has come out and apologized. and there's been a lot of attention about the transportation of live animals. So I think when people really hear about things like that and it's related to their lives in such a direct way, then they can really be informed. And I think then we will see even more people being interested in supporting animal rights and standing up for a free future.
Okay, thank you, Gemma. And I have one last, quite a big question, which is to anybody on the panel. China has some very ambitious goals and targets to be carbon neutral by 2060. How do you think the eradication of fur farming can contribute to that goal? Maybe I'd like to invite either Gemma or Joey to consider that question.
I think Joey might be better.
Gemma, I don't want to push it to you, but I mean, fur actually isn't my background. So I guess someone else could speak to that, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Would anybody, or even Victoria, because you have you've been understanding materials in Southeast Asia and the Asia market for a while now.
I think anything, as we've highlighted, fur has a massive impact on the environment, sort of the health of people who use the chemicals, right through to the kind of cruelty aspect to the animals. I think without a doubt that actually, lessening that will have a massive impact, on the environment where it's being produced. So without a doubt, if we kind of get rid of the fur production, it's going to be a positive impact on the environment in the industry. So I'm all for it. Not only is it health, environmental, it's also about cruelty. Those three things make it material that's just not ethical and sustainable. Yeah.
Thank you for your response, and so thank you everybody on the panel for joining this Q&A. I've heard some very insightful messages, but also listening to what you have to say about the hope for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I think that's, yeah. Thank you. And that just brings us perfectly, probably the best timing we've ever had in a forum, to our closing remarks from Pei Su.
针对刚刚呢那个John 呢提到的就是说这个
And for what was mentioned by John in his last question regarding the carbon neutrality initiative, I think the State Council in China in February this year had given us a timeline for green development that by 2025 they have a framework of green development covering the logistics and consumptions. The basic shape would have to be established. China will focus on the clean energy, clean manufacturing, and the green development, covering agricultural industry, manufacturing, service industry, and information technology to bring the primary, secondary, tertiary industry to upgrade as a whole. And under that top-level policy, why we need to talk about fur-free? What's the relationship between those two? Actually, I could refer to what was mentioned by the experts before. By fur farming, it's not a clean industry, and it's not the best one for environmental protection. It pollutes the water resources and the soil, etc. It doesn't fit as a green industry at all. So that is why when we consider those policies given by the State Council, we need to think about the root cause of what's been going on right now and why should we eliminate fur farming, and considering the impact that we may have to reduce carbon emission. Also, plus minks, rabbits, foxes, raccoons, whatever animals that being farmed for fur are being treated cruelly, and also they are one of the sources for COVID-19 and many other infectious diseases. So today we have talked about CSR, technology, PLM, fashion industry, sustainable education, to non-governmental organizations, cooperation together with ACTAsia and the CBCGDF. We discussed about a sustainable future. And many of the speakers, like Joe and Lucy, talked about how we treat people and animals. We need to treat the people better, so we will have better industry. It's not like we're always talking about animal welfare, but actually COVID-19 has such a huge impact to our human race. The government leaders and doctors, physicians, experts have all been calling out to build or repair the relationship between human beings and nature. I started caring about the topic of fur-free since 2014. At that time, I thought fur-free was a far-away dream, but now we should no longer see it as a dream or an unobtainable goal. The elimination of fur industry, or at least stop buying, is what's needed by us right now. Against the backdrop of COVID-19 and environmental deterioration, it's really something we need to do right now. I also mentioned in a speech given in Duke University in Suzhou, everyone should be involved in the initiative of compassion in fashion. As long as every individual stops buying, not encouraging the farming, the manufacturing, and the selling of fur, we will all make contribution to it. I'd really like to thank John. We started cooperating since 2008. All those years, we worked together to promote sustainable industry and to make contribution to further sustainability across UK and in China. Thank you to all of our speakers. Such in-depth discussion and high-quality materials. I participate in forums in a large number every month, but today is definitely one of the most innovative and open sharing that we have watched and seen. We're going to release the recording afterwards. We have another forum focusing on the consumer side in September. We will release the relevant information to all of you afterwards. And just now, Victoria has specifically mentioned compassion in fashion, the fur-free course. The Future Land online course, which is for free, will start at 24th of May, lasting for 6 weeks. The Future Learn is a world-leading online learning platform. Many leading universities in the world have opened up the courses on this platform. And with our Compassion in Fashion for Free course, we will give you bilingual content delivery in both English and Chinese, so that all of you could be able to learn this advanced and breaking through course. And last but not least, I wish everyone could be healthy and safe. Despite COVID-19, let's work together and build a sustainable future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Pei. And yeah, a huge thank you to all of the speakers who have made the event rich and meaningful for all of us. And I just want to also thank Peter and Belle, our interpreters, for making the event accessible for everybody today. And finally, to our hardworking ACTAsia team in China and in the UK, and for all of their hard work, not just in the run-up to this event, but already planning for the September one. So please keep an eye out on our social media channels for more news about the next one to come. So we'll close our webinar now, but if you have any questions, ideas, or you want to join the fur-free retailer scheme in China, please get in touch at furfree@actasia.org. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks all the speakers.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, 第一房的代表安松，谢谢。And special
thank you,
Gemma as well.
From les enfants.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Joey. It's a brilliant. Joey, it's a brilliant outcome. Brilliant outcome. We have like thousands of people streaming.
That's awesome. Cool. It's good to be here.
It's very exciting, and there was about, I think, 3 or 4 live channels were streaming together as well. And afterwards, we will put these on YouTube. So I think if you want to share, we will put on the YouTube to reshare.